What's the hottest 16-bit video game system with true arcade games, great graphics, real challenge, stereo sound, and the hottest library too with games like...
Welcome back to Nostalgic Nights. I'm your host, Nine Lives, and tonight we'll be going back in time to review some of the best video games of the year, 1991. 1991 marks the real beginning of the console wars. While Sega struggled to pull ahead of the PC engine in Japan, in the United States and Europe, they procured a sizable lead over Nintendo, particularly in Europe, where the Super Nintendo was released until nearly 2 years later. Thanks to Nintendo's license policies, which forbid cross-platform games, Sega's strategy was always going to be depending on their first-party library, which was heavy on arcade ports. The Genesis had a strong library of arcade ports to pull from in its first 3 years, but still struggled to gain ground against Nintendo in the United States. 1991 is also the year that the 16-bit era came of age. 4 years into the fourth generation of home consoles, developers unleashed a barrage of impressive, influential, innovative video games that are important today as they are for the time. Few years can lay claim to such a status, but then also a few years are blessed by releases of games such as Zelda: Link to the Past and Another World. There were a lot of flagship titles that were released in 1991, so many that we put a list together for you of the 24 best video games of 1991. The SNES made its grand debut in America, making it a pivotal moment in gaming history. With its arrival, Sega finally found it a formidable rival for the Mega Drive. While North American players would play titles like Super Mario World, F-Zero, and Pilot Wings, it was Japan that Nintendo's mastery of the
video game craze, the Nintendo craze. But as our consumer editor Paula Lyons shows us this year, Nintendo may be up against some serious competition.
Thanks for the Game Boy. I give it an A. Nintendo.
We're in the thick of television's annual commercial assault. Video game makers are spending $155 million in their battle for the consumer's buck, even though there's never been much of a contest out there. Nintendo has been the hottest, best-selling toy for 3 years running and has cornered over 90% of the video game market. This Christmas could be Nintendo's biggest and best super-selling season. But will it be its last? Some toy industry analysts think so. Why? They cite recession, increased competition, and Nintendo's own market saturation. 29 million American homes, that's nearly 1 in 3, already have Nintendo.
I think the level of business done in the category is certain to decline. If for no other reason than most households already have their hardware, so if they're only going to buy software going forward, that's a lot less money that's going to be spent on the category.
If decline's coming, kids don't know it. Almost every day after school, these Dobbs Ferry, New York kids gather to play Nintendo.
I like Super Mario Brothers 3 because you can do a lot of stuff that you can't do in real life, like you can fly.
I like the games because like it's just like a TV show, but you're like acting it out and you're not even in it.
When I do get a new game, it's fun to play it a lot because it's like exploring a new place that you've never been before.
But in America, the Nintendo system's brain is an 8-bit computer chip, a technology rapidly becoming outmoded. Nintendo has a more powerful 16-bit system already hot in Japan, but it won't arrive in the States till late next year.
What Nintendo don't? The 16-bit Genesis system by Sega. Genesis does it all.
Sega's Genesis is Nintendo's nemesis. It's one of 2 16-bit systems that are already in the U.S. Sega clearly hopes to leapfrog Nintendo by touting 16-bit's advantages.
More levels of play, better animation on the screen.
In 1990, Sega of America hired a new CEO, Tom Kalinowski, former president of Mattel. Under Kalinowski, Sega of America opted for a new marketing position for the Genesis, choosing to target an older teenage demographic. The Genesis was marketed as a console your cool older brother would play. With lots of sports games and darker, more adult arcade ports, Sega dropped the price of the Genesis prior to the launch of the Super Nintendo and worked on deals with Electronic Arts and other US developers to produce sports games for the Genesis. But the real game change for the Genesis was the arrival of Sega's first true mascot, Sonic the Hedgehog. The first Sonic the Hedgehog released in mid-1991 and was admittedly made as a pack-in for the Genesis, even going so far as to offer the game free to players willing to trade in Alter Beast, the console's prior pack-in. All of this was paired with the edgy, attention-grabbing marketing campaign, which positioned Sega as a cooler, more adult brand, and Nintendo as dopey kids' toys. Print ads proclaimed that Genesis does what Nintendo don't, and Sega made heavy use of the nonsense game press. To pay off, Sega's larger library games helped it power past nearly the early 16-bit cycle. While Nintendo would outsell the Genesis in 1992, Sega would end the year with a larger install base of 55% market share.
Mystic Defender, Rambo 3 and more. Genesis from Sega. Genesis, the new generation in video games.
In 1991, Duke Nukem bursted onto the gaming scene as a groundbreaking, side-scrolling platform shooter that introduced the world to its eponymous hero Bryce, wisecracking action star with an unmistakable attitude. Developed by Apogee Games, the game combined fast-paced running gun action with challenging platforming segments, all set against a futuristic backdrop filled with aliens, robots, and other formidable foes. Duke Nukem's unique blend of humor, stylish visuals, and explosive gameplay quickly distinguished it from other titles of the era, making it a standout release in the early 90s PC gaming landscape. The game's design was a masterclass in balancing engaging action with clever level design. Players navigated through intricately crafted stages that tested both their reflexes and strategic thinking. With a diverse arsenal of weapons at his disposal, Duke not only blasted his way through hordes of enemies, but he also encountered puzzles and obstacles that required precise timing and skill. The game's witty dialogue, edgy presentation added a layer of personality that resonated with fans, further cementing Duke Nukem as a memorable figure in the annals of gaming history. Released in 1991, Road Rash quickly established itself as one of the most unique racing games of its era. Developed by Electronic Arts, the game blended high-speed motorcycle gaming, racing with combat, creating a dynamic experience that stood out in the racing genre. Set against the backdrop of gritty urban streets, Road Rash allowed players to race against opponents while also fighting them off with punches, kicks, and weapons. The game's rebellious spirit, inspired by punk rock culture, is reflected in its soundtrack and visual design, giving it a distinct personality that made it an instant hit among gamers. The combination of fast-paced racing and brutal combat felt fresh and exhilarating, providing an adrenaline rush that few racing games could match at the time. Road Rash was also notable for its graphics and its ability to create a sense of speed. The game featured a side-scrolling view with the player's bikes always in motion, giving the sensation of zipping through roads at breakneck speeds. The backgrounds were filled with detailed environments from rural farmlands to busy city streets, offering a sense of variety as players progressed through the game. The character models were fairly simple, but effective, capturing the rough and tumble aesthetic of the game. Additionally, the soundtrack, filled with punk rock and rock music, perfectly matched the tone of the game, further amplifying its rebellious attitude, making it one of the most memorable aspects of the experience. The success of Road Rash led to a number of sequels and adaptations over the years, cementing its legacy as a pioneering title in the racing genre. Its blend of racing and combat would go on to influence future titles, and the game's distinctive style set it apart from other games of its time. While its formula may seem simple by today's standards, Road Rash was a breath of fresh air in the early 90s, providing an exciting, fast-paced experience that was like anything else available at the time. With its blend of competitive racing and chaotic combat, Road Rash remains a cult classic and a key part of racing game history. Released in 1991, the Simpsons arcade game by Konami quickly became one of the most iconic beat-em-up games of its era. With its vibrant, cartoonish art style and its catchy music, the game brought the beloved characters from the hit TV show The Simpsons to life in an exciting, entertaining arcade experience. Players could take control of Homer, Marge, Bart, or Lisa as they fought through a series of increasingly bizarre levels to rescue Maggie from the clutches of the villainous Mr. Barnes and his cronies. Game's colorful visuals and faithful representation of the Simpsons universe made it instantly appealing to fans of the show and casual players alike. One of the game's game's standout features was its cooperative gameplay. Up to 4 players could join forces, each controlling one of the Simpsons family members, making it a fun social experience in the arcades. Each player had unique abilities that added variety to gameplay. Homer, for example, relied on his brute strength and wide-reaching attacks, while Lisa was the quickest and had long-range attacks for her jump rope. The game's level design also offered a good balance of challenge, with its nice variety of enemies and memorable boss fights, including the likes of Snake, the terrifying Mr. Burns, and variety of lackeys. The levels were creatively designed, taking players through familiar locations from the TV show, including Moe's Tavern, the Springfield nuclear power plant, even the giant robot rampage. Overall, The Simpsons arcade game is a beloved classic for fans of both the series and arcade beat-em-ups. Its combination of colorful graphics, catchy music, and entertaining gameplay made it a standout title in 1991 and a favorite in arcade halls worldwide. While the game may have not had the depth of modern titles, its simplicity and fun factor have ensured its place in the hearts of many gamers of both The Simpsons and arcade users both. It's a game that still delivers nostalgia and fun to this day. Released in 1991 by Capcom, Captain Commando is a vibrant, action-packed beat-em-up that has garnered a cult following over the years. Set in a futuristic world where crime and corruption runs rampant, players take control of one of the 4 unique characters: Captain Commando, a superheroic leader with a bionic arm; Ninja, a swift, elegant fighter; Mac the Knife, a powerful cyborg with a massive drill; and Babyhead, an intelligent, superpowered infant in a mecha suit. The game's colorful combat-inspired art style, over-the-top characters immediately set it apart from other beat-em-up games at the time, bringing both fun and a certain charm to the genre. The dynamic gameplay, filled with fast-paced combat and a variety of enemies, kept players both engaged as they worked together to clean up the streets. The gameplay in Captain Commando follows a typical beat-em-up formula, of course. Players move through the stages, fighting off waves of enemies, powerful bosses. However, what makes this title stand out is its cast of quirky, varied characters, each offering a distinct style and abilities. Captain Commando's bionic arm provides powerful attacks with a larger reach, while Ninja relies on speed and stealth, and Mac uses his heavy strength to deal with enemies. Babyhead, though, surprising choice, adds a funny, unique dynamic to the team, using advanced technology to dispatch foes. This diversity allowed for fun multiplayer experiences where friends could team up and strategize to utilize each other's strengths, enhancing replayability and keeping the action fresh. Though Captain Commando may have never reached the same level of mainstream success as other Capcom beat-em-up games like Final Fight, it remains a hidden gem in the genre. The combination of colorful visuals, fun varied characters, and fast-paced cooperative gameplay made it a standout in the early 90s. Released in 1991 for the Game Boy, Metroid 2 came 5 years after the original Metroid had left its lasting impact on the gaming world. The decision to create a canonical sequel for the Game Boy rather than a mere portable version of the original was a bold move by Nintendo at the time. Most Game Boy games were simplified or reimagined ports of console titles. However, Nintendo's R&D team took full advantage of the portable format, using the Game Boy's limitations to create a true, unique sequel. Metroid 2 pushed the boundaries of what could be achieved on the small screen, offering a more refined experience that tackled many of the issues found in the original game, while maintaining the core elements of what made Metroid such a beloved franchise. The anticipation for Metroid 2 was so high, as fans of the original Metroid were eager to see how the sequel would involve the gameplay and expand the series' lore. Though the Game Boy's limited graphics and tiny screen displayed challenges, the team at Nintendo crafted a game that used minimalistic design to create a honey atmospheric world. The evolution of the Metroid themselves, from the basic larvae form to the powerful Omega Metroids, introduced new threats and kept players on edge as the first Metroid game on portable console. Metroid 2 proved that deep atmospheric exploration and action gameplay could thrive on handheld systems, solidifying its place in gaming history and setting the stage for future entries in the iconic series. Released in 1991 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Ghouls and Ghosts is the third installment in the Ghost and Goblin series, and quickly became known for its brutal difficulty and visually stunning presentation, building on the foundation laid by its predecessors. This action platformer drew players into a dark, gothic world filled with a myriad of monsters, traps, and perilous obstacles. Players control Arthur, a brave knight tasked with rescuing Princess Prin from the clutches of evil demon king Lucifer. The game's colorful graphics and detailed animation were impressive for its time, with an eerie, outwardly environment and a grotesque enemy design that created an immersive, nightmarish atmosphere. This game's hallmark, however, was with its extreme difficulty. Super Ghouls and Ghosts embraced it with the punishing gameplay that the series was known for, with players facing challenging platforming sequences and unforgiving numbers of enemies. Arthur starts with a limited health, and you can only withstand a few hits before losing life, making every mistake feel costly. The game's level design requires precision, timing, and patience, with enemy placement often feeling deliberately cruel. While frustrating, the game's difficulty was a big part of the appeal for players who enjoyed mastering challenging gameplay, seeing how far they could progress. The game also introduced new mechanics such as multiple weapon types and more intricate armor system, which added depth to the combat and gave players some variety in how they approach the game's many hazards. Despite its difficulty, Super Ghouls and Ghosts remains a classic due to its engaging gameplay and memorable atmosphere. The music, composed by the legendary Tomoyo Komoto, further enhanced the experience with haunting melodies that complemented the dark themes of the game. Its pixelated art and animation remains iconic, with detailed environments that range from haunted forests to the hellish landscapes. The game is not for the lighthearted. For those who could overcome its relentless difficulty, Super Ghouls and Ghosts offered a rewarding challenge, and its legacy as one of the toughest action games of the 16-bit era remains intact. Though not for the faint of heart, this game is a must-play for fans of difficult platformers and anyone looking to test their gaming skills. Released in 1991 for the Nintendo Entertainment System, Tiny Toon Adventures was a vibrant, action-packed platformer based on the popular animated series of the same name. Developed by Konami, the game captures the essence of the show with its colorful characters, whimsical environment, and fast-paced gameplay. Players can control a variety of beloved characters from the Tiny Toons universe, including Buster Bunny, Plucky Duck, Hampton J. Pig. Each whom brings a unique ability to the table. The game's lighthearted tone and charm makes it accessible to a younger audience, while still providing an engaging experience for all players of all ages. The gameplay of Tiny Toon Adventures revolves around a traditional side-scrolling platform format, with players jumping, running, and avoiding obstacles across a variety of levels inspired by the animated series. The game is divided into different stages, each featuring different challenges and enemies to defeat. The levels are visually rich and bright, cartoonish background, and creative enemy designs that keep the action fresh and fun, which sets this game apart from other platformers of its time. Its variety of playable characters, each with their own ability. Buster Bunny, for example, can perform a double jump, while Plucky the Duck has ability to glide, allowing players to approach each stage in different ways. While Tiny Toon Adventures offers a charming, enjoyable platform experience, it is not without its challenges. The game strikes a balance between accessibility and difficulty, with stages gradually increasing complexity, requiring both reflexes and strategy. The controls are responsive, and the levels, while often playful and silly, can still pose a challenge, especially for younger players. Additionally, the game features a catchy soundtrack that fits perfectly with the cartoon theme, enhancing the overall atmosphere. Tiny Toon Adventure stands out as a better licensed platformer of its era, capturing the essence of the show while offering a solid gameplay and an enjoyable experience for fans of the series and platformer enthusiasts alike. If y'all haven't tried this game, I definitely think y'all should go check it out. Released in 1991 for the Nintendo Entertainment System, Battletoads quickly earned a reputation as one of the most challenging, unique action platformers of its time. Developed by Rare, published by Trade West, the game introduced players to the anthropic toads Razzids and Pimple on a mission to rescue Princess Angelica from the evil Dark Queen. With its intense difficulty, vibrant art style, and unforgettable levels, Battletoads became a standout title in the early 90s. The game's blend of classic side-scrolling combat and thrilling vehicle-based stages helped it set it apart from other platformers, making it both a unique and frustrating experience for players. One of Battletoads' most memorable aspects is its distinctive, fast-paced gameplay. The core mechanics are simple, with players using punches, kicks, and special attacks to defeat enemies. However, its variety in gameplay styles that keeps things interesting. The game alternates between traditional beat-em-up stages, where you can control the toads on foot, and adrenaline-pumping vehicle levels, such as the infamous Turbo Tunnel. These stages put your reflexes to the test, requiring a split-second decision and quick reflexes to avoid obstacles at high speed. The game also features moments where the toads transform into giant fists, wrecking balls, and other objects to crush enemies, adding a layer of fun and absurdity to the action. Despite the colorful characters and quirky humor, Battletoads is known for its brutal difficulty. The game punishes players relentlessly with levels that are difficult to navigate, enemies that deal heavy damage, and numerous instant death traps. The Turbo Tunnel level is one of the most infamous in video game history due to its extremely fast-paced, unforgiving nature. The game doesn't offer many opportunities for error, and even for the smallest mistake can result in starting over from the beginning of the stage. While this level of challenge may be frustrating, it also gives Battletoads a sense of achievement. For those who are able to really push through and finish the game, players who managed to complete the game felt a deep sense of accomplishment, cementing Battletoads' place as a classic that will live on in the gaming community. Battletoads is a true product of its time, reflecting Nintendo's hard philosophy of the early 90s, where games were designed to be challenging in order to extend their playtime. This emphasis on difficulty was both a blessing and a curse for Battletoads, while undoubtedly attracted a dedicated fan base who reveled the challenge. It also alienated players who were unable to push through, and punishing difficulty spikes. Nevertheless, the game's bold design choices, wild sense of humor, and memorable characters have helped it endure as a cult classic today. Battletoads remains a beloved part of gaming history, and it's celebrated for its unique blend of action, difficulty, and sheer audacity of its gameplay. Released in 1991 for the Sega Genesis, Streets of Rage became an iconic title in the beat-em-up genre, setting the standard for side-scrolling action games of the early 90s. Developed and published by Sega, Streets of Rage introduced players to the gritty urban world where a group of vigilantes must fight their way through crime-ridden streets to take down a powerful crime syndicate. Led by the mysterious Mr. X, featuring memorable characters like Axstone Blaze, which my favorite was Axel, and Atom Hunter, the game captivated players with its combination of smooth gameplay, vibrant environments, and dynamic co-op multiplayer. Streets of Rage quickly gained recognition for its action-packed sequences and became a hallmark of the Sega's library. Streets of Rage carved out its place in video game history. It was a critical and commercial success, drawing praise for its polished gameplay and fresh approach it took to the beat-em-up genre. Over time, it has become a beloved classic, inspiring sequels, spin-offs, and even remakes. The impact of Streets of Rage can still be felt today with its lasting influence on modern beat-em-up games and retro gaming culture. In a time dominated by arcade-style action, Streets of Rage stood tall, offering an unforgettable experience that will continue to resonate with gamers for years to come. Released in 1991, Lemming is one of those unique puzzle games that completely revolutionized the genre and became an instant classic. Developed by DMA Design and published by Psycho, I can never say this company. Lemming takes a surprisingly simple concept and turns it into a deeply engaging challenge. The premise is simple. Guide a group of tiny, oblivious lemming through a series of increasingly complex levels filled with traps, obstacles, and deadly pitfalls. The catch? Lemmings don't listen to you. They're determined to walk in the same direction until they hit something, making it your job to use special abilities to manipulate their movement and keep them from certain doom. Why is this starting to sound like Picnic? Tell me in the comments of my trip. What makes Lemmings so captivating is its balance of creativity and strategy. Each level presents a new set of challenges that require you to think ahead and plan your moves carefully. The game introduces a variety of skills that can be assigned to Lemmings, such as digging, building, blocking, which are essential to solving puzzles. The joy of the game comes from experimenting with skills in different ways to create intricate paths to save as many Lemmings as possible. It's a game that demands patience, trial, and error. Some of the out-of-box thinking as you figure out how to direct these helpless Lemmings to safety. The fact that this game is still fondly remembered today speaks volume about its lasting impact. And I suggest if y'all haven't played this game, that y'all definitely do. Go check it out. Released in 1991 for the Nintendo Entertainment System, Mega Man 4 is a fantastic entry in the beloved series. It builds on everything that made the Mega Man franchise iconic, while adding a few fresh twists. The story is simple but effective. Dr. Willie is back to cause trouble, and at this time a new villain, Dr. Kodasak, and his robot masters have appeared. As Mega Man, you will once again face off against 8 unique bosses, each with their own thematic stage and daily attacks. The core gameplay remains tried and true, with tight platforming, exciting boss battles, and clever level design. Mega Man 4 takes it a step further by introducing the charge shot, a mechanic that allows you to power up your buster for stronger, more satisfying attacks, giving you a tactical edge, adding more depth to combat. What makes Mega Man 4 so memorable is its incredible level design and the challenge it offers. Each stage feels distinct, from the icy wasteland of Chill Man's stage to the perilous heights in Pharaoh Man's level. Filled with hazards and enemies that demand precise platforming and quick reflexes, the addition of the charge shot opens up new ways to tackle these levels and enemies. But it's the classic Mega Man formula that keeps things interesting. Learn the weaknesses of robot masters and use their powers against them. It's the cycle of learning, mastering that's so satisfying, rewarding players for their perseverance and strategy. Mega Man 4 manages to maintain the series' charm while refining the formula, making it an essential game for fans of the series and anyone who appreciates challenging platformers. It's a game that nails the balance between nostalgia, innovation, ensuring that it remains a classic in the eyes of retro gaming enthusiasts. Released in 1991, Golden Axe 2, released by Sega for the Sega Genesis, is one of those classic beat-em-ups that really know how to crank up the action. As they follow up to the original Golden Axe 2 delivers some of the more same intense moments, side-scrolling combat, but with a few upgraded features that make it stand out in the crowded world of 16-bit beat-em-ups. In this sequel, you will once again take control of the 3 iconic heroes, the Barbarian Axe Battler, the Amazonian Tyrus Flare, or the Dwarf Gillis Thunderhead, as they battle through hordes of enemies to defeat the evil Death Adder and his dark minions. If you've played the original Golden Axe, you'll feel right at home in this sequel. The gameplay is straightforward, action-packed beat-em-ups that let you hack and slash and unleash devastating magic attacks on waves of enemies. However, Golden Axe 2 introduced some fantastic new features that elevate the experience. First off, the addition of the new combo system allows players to chain attacks together more fluently, making the combat feel more dynamic and real. Each character still has their own unique magic abilities, but Golden Axe 2 also gives you more control over these powers, making battles feel more strategic, of course. And let's not forget the iconic rideable creatures that make their return, allowing you to hop onto dragons and other beasts for some extra firepower and fun. This game also does an excellent job in improving on visuals and sound of its predecessors. Golden Axe 2 features more detailed character sprites and environments that really pop on the Sega Genesis, with its beautifully designed stages that take you from the forest to the caverns to the castles. The variety of settings keep the gameplay fresh and colorful. Overall, Golden Axe 2 improves on the formula of its original and delivers a fantastic action-packed sequel that fans of the series and new players alike can enjoy. While the game doesn't reinvent the wheel, it redefines the elements that made the first games: great tight controls, intense combat, and memorable characters, whether you're taking on enemies solo or teaming up with your friend in local co-op. Golden Axe 2 remains a standout in beat-em-ups on the Sega Genesis. And if you're a fan of classic action games, this is one you must play. that will leave you itching for more hack and slash action. Released in 1991 and developed and published by Konami for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Castlevania 4 is nothing short of a masterpiece in the action platformer genre. This game takes everything fans loved about the original Castlevania series and amplifies it with enhanced graphics, refined gameplay mechanics, and unforgettable atmosphere, may I add. As Simon Belmont, you're once again tasked with battling your way through Dracula's terrifying castle to put an end to the dark reign. But Super Castlevania 4 isn't just another entry in the series. It's a bold reinvention that elevated Castlevania to new heights. One of the standout features of Super Castlevania 4 is its innovative control system. For the first time in the series, players have full control over Simon's whip, which can now be swung in all 8 directions. This adds a level of precision and strategy to combat that was previously unheard of in the series. Whether you're attacking enemies from above, behind, or across gaps, the fluidity of movement and flexibility with the whip makes every encounter feel dynamic and satisfying. The game also introduces a wide array of enemies and massive, challenging bosses. Overall, Super Castlevania 4 is not just a fantastic addition to the Castlevania franchise, it's one of the best 16-bit games ever made. Its blend of intense action, tight platforming, atmospheric visuals, and a legendary soundtrack makes it an unforgettable experience. This game also delivers a fantastic challenge, offering a rewarding, tense journey through Dracula's castle. If you're a fan of classic platformers, this title is an absolute must-play. Super Castlevania 4 stands out as a shining example of the Super Nintendo's capabilities and remains one of the definitive games of the era. So, grab your whip and get ready to face darkness because the journey you don't want to miss. Released in 1991, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3: The Manhattan Project is one of those hidden gems that every Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan should revisit. Released for the Nintendo Entertainment System, this game takes our favorite turtles on a wild action-packed adventure to stop Shredder and his evil cronies once again. It's the third installment in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles NES series. While it may have not been at the same level as fame of Turtles in Time or the original arcade game, it's an absolute blast, packed with fast-paced action, memorable bosses, and of course, 4-player action. The Manhattan Project is a classic that holds up beautifully even in today's gaming world. At its core, Manhattan Project is a side-scrolling beat-em-up where you control one of the 4 turtles, Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, or Raphael, and battle through various levels filled with foot soldiers, mutants, and bad guys to save Manhattan from Shredder's lasting plan. The controls are tight and responsive, making it incredibly satisfying to pull off combos and special moves, like each turtle's signature attack. But what really sets this game apart is its smooth co-op gameplay, probably the best. You and a friend can team up and take down enemies together, making the experience even more fun. The difficulty is just right, but not overwhelming, giving you the right balance of action and strategy. And let's not forget the boss fights. From battling Shredder's robotic creations to huge mutant bosses, the game keeps you on your toes, each fight requiring a different approach. While it's not as visually complex as the arcade or SNES games, the NES hardware holds up surprisingly well here, with vibrant colors, great attention to the character design. The sound design is just as memorable, with a catchy upbeat soundtrack that has the classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle vibe. The tunes are fun, energetic, really setting the tone for each level. The sound effects, like the satisfying whack of a turtle's weapon hitting an enemy or the thud of a boss crashing on the ground, only adds to the game's fun atmosphere. All in all, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3: The Manhattan Project is a must-play for fans of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise and anyone who loves classic beat-em-ups. With its accessible gameplay, vibrant graphics, and nostalgic charm, it is a game that is perfect for a quick, fun session, especially if a friend joins. While it might not have the same recognitions as other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games, this title is definitely one of the best on the NES. Whether you're reliving your childhood or discovering it for the first time, Manhattan Project is sure to provide hours of turtle-powered fun. So grab your nunchucks, your bow staff, and your katana and get ready for one epic ride through the streets of New York. Video games were in a state of transition in 1991. The glory days of 8-bit gaming, largely led by the Nintendo Entertainment System, were fading due to Sega's new 16-bit console, the Genesis. Developers now had to look ahead at creating new games for the next generation of game systems, and the once mighty NES was quickly looking less than profitable. Squaresoft had enjoyed a moderate success in North America's market with the 1990 release of Final Fantasy for the NES. 2 sequels were already out on the Nintendo Famicom in Japan, and a new installment was in production for the Nintendo's upcoming 16-bit successor. The success of Final Fantasy series in Japan gave Square several options for their follow-up release in the North America's market. Ultimately, they repackaged the Japanese release of Final Fantasy IV for the Super Famicom and renamed it Final Fantasy II to hide any continuing issues. Among its many innovations, probably its most significant contribution was the introduction of the active time battle system, the ATB system, which would go on to influence countless RPGs for years to come. The inspiration for the ATB system came from a seemingly ordinary moment. A regular team member watching race cars pass each other. This sparked the idea of combining the classic turn-based combat system with real-time decision-making, paving the way for what would be later known as the action RPG. In traditional turn-based combat, players took turns issuing commands to their characters, but in Final Fantasy IV, the battle system introduced real-time elements that added a layer of tension and urgency. Each character's action was timed, and the player's decision had to be made quickly, or the enemies would continue to attack without hesitation. This innovation made battles far more tense and challenging, demanding not only strategic planning, but also quick thinking. If players didn't act fast enough, their characters could be overwhelmed by relentless attacks, and their whole party dies. Simple. Final Fantasy IV was not just a technical achievement with its colorful visuals and beautifully crafted battle sprites from both character to enemy to every detail. It also had triumphed in storytelling and gameplay. This game introduced players to a rich narrative, exploring themes of redemption, personal growth, and sacrifice. This story, which follows the journey of C-Cell, a Dark Knight turned hero, it was one of the first RPGs to feature such a deep character-driven plot. The game's memorable cast of characters, each with their own backstory and motivation, helped elevate this game to legendary status in the RPG community. As one of the earliest RPGs for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Final Fantasy IV set the stage for the future of the genre. The innovations introduced the game from the ATB system to the enhanced visuals. It had a profound impact on both the Final Fantasy franchise and the RPG genre as a whole. It laid the foundation for many elements that would define later entries in the series, and it still influences modern RPGs today. And I suggest if y'all haven't played this all-time classic, that y'all definitely do. Go check it out. Released in 1991, Street Fighter II isn't just a game, it's a phenomenon. Released by Capcom, it revolutionized the fighting game genre and set the stage for competitive gaming as we know it today. From arcades to consoles, Street Fighter II took the world by storm, introducing us to iconic characters like Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, and Zangief, laying down the foundation for its legacy to continue and thrive. It wasn't just about punches and kicks, it was about strategy, precision, and mastering each character's unique move. The magic of Street Fighter II lies in its groundbreaking gameplay. For the first time, players had the option to choose from 8 unique fighters, each with their own set of moves, strengths, and weaknesses. Whether you're delivering Ryu's fireball, or Chun-Li's lightning-fast kicks, or Blanca's shocking electricity attacks, each character felt distinct, giving players endless ways to approach the game. The controls are simple to learn, yet mastering them takes time and practice. The inclusion of special moves, such as Ryu's famous Hadoken or Gu's Sonic Boom, added extra layers of depth, turning each match into a battle of tactics and precision. The 2-player mode was a game changer, allowing friends to face off and test their skills against each other in competitive environments. Street Fighter II became a cultural touchstone, not just for the arcade dominance, but for how it brought people together. Fighter II wasn't just a game, It's a cultural milestone. It took fighting games to the next level, creating a template for future titles, influencing everything from competitive gaming to pop culture. Its accessibility for newcomers combined with its depth for seasoned players made it a perfect mix of fun and challenging. Street Fighter II continues to stand as one of the best fighting games ever made. Whether you're throwing fireballs or throwing kicks, Street Fighter II delivers intense, action-packed fun every time you play. And if you haven't experienced this gem yet, it's time for you to step into the ring. Street Fighter II is waiting. Released in 1991, Sid Meier's Civilization is a landmark in the strategy game genre, offering players the opportunity to build and guide a civilization from the dawn of time into the future. Developed by Sid Meier and his team, the game introduced a turn-based system where players must manage resources, diplomacy, military, technology, and a culture to grow their own empire. Civilization is groundbreaking for its depth and complexity, providing a dynamic sandbox experience where each playthrough is unique as the first. It brought strategic gameplay to the border of an audience, offering both casual and hardcore players a challenging yet rewarding experience as they navigate the intricacies of global management. The game's impact on the gaming industry cannot be overstated. Sid Meier's Civilization essentially created the 4X genre: explore, expand, exploit, exterminate, laying the groundwork for the future strategy games like Age of Empires, Total War, and some would even say Clash of Clans. Its influence extends beyond gaming, as it introduced an engaging approach to historical simulation and decision-making, encouraging players to think critically about resource management, long-term planning, and the game's emphasis on choice and consequences. Along with its open-ended structure, it's inspired countless sequels and spin-offs, making Civilization a cornerstone of modern gaming and a prime example of how games can combine entertainment with education. I suggest if y'all haven't played this all-time classic, that y'all definitely do go and check it out. A Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, released in 1991, was not just another entry in the Zelda series. It was a masterpiece that helped define the action-adventure genre and cemented Zelda as one of gaming's most iconic franchises. Released for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, A Link to the Past takes everything that made the original Zelda great and elevates it to new heights with a richer story, deeper gameplay, and an expansive world that players still remember fondly today. It's a game that combines exploration, puzzle solving, and fast-paced action, all wrapped in a beautifully designed fantasy world. Core, A Link to the Past redefines the formula established by the original Zelda, giving players the freedom to explore a vast world, solve puzzles, engage in combat. You play as Link, tasked with rescuing Princess Zelda and stopping the evil wizard Angon. But the game quickly evolves into something else. The world is split between the light world and the dark world, each with its own set of challenges and enemies and puzzles. This dual world mechanic is a game changer, adding layers of complexity to the already engaging gameplay. The dungeons are full of clever puzzles that require you to use items to collect throughout your adventures, from the boomerang to the powerful Master Sword. Combat is smooth and satisfying, with a variety of enemies that force you to think on your feet and use the right tactics. It is an adventure that completely keeps you on your toes, and every new area brings fresh challenges and surprises. Visually, A Link to the Past is nothing but short but breathtaking, especially for a 16-bit game. The colorful and the detailed sprite work brings the world of Hyrule to life in a way that feels timeless, from the lush green forests of Light World to the eerie dark landscapes of the Dark World. Every area is meticulously designed to draw you in. The animation is fluid, and the characters and enemies are vibrant, making this game feel alive and dynamic. The top-down perspective works perfectly for this type of adventure, allowing you to fully appreciate the beauty and the design of the world. And let's not forget about the music. A Link to the Past boasts one of the most iconic soundtracks in gaming history. Composed by Kojo Kondo, this music sets the tone for each area, with its melodies that are both haunting, uplifting, and perfectly matching the game's tone. And who could ever forget the overworld theme and the dungeon themes? Both are in the memories of players, enhancing the overall experience, making the game feel unforgettable. Ultimately, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is a game that excels in almost every way. Its perfect blend of exploration, combat, puzzle solving, and storytelling all wrapped up in a visually stunning, musically memorable package. It set the standard for the future of Zelda games and influenced countless action-adventure titles that followed through. Even today, nearly 3 decades after its release, it remains a beloved classic. And if you have never experienced it, now is the time to dive in this unforgettable journey. Whether you're exploring the light world or battling in the dark world or uncovering the hidden secrets in the dungeons, A Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is a game that continues to capture the hearts of gamers new and old. And that's a wrap on tonight's deep dive into gaming history. We hope you enjoyed this journey through time with us, exploring the games that shaped the industry and left a lasting impact on the world of gaming. If you love taking a stroll down memory lane or rediscovering hidden gems, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a review or a history lesson from Nostalgic Nights. Do you have a favorite game from 1991? Let us know in the comments below. And as always,